Okay, in part 2 we will continue our practice of data frames. So check to see if any grades are wrong, that is less than 0 or greater than 100, and correct the cell values if possible. Okay, now let's isolate that, let's isolate the rows that satisfy this condition, that is the greater than 0 or greater than 100. Using the lock method, of course. So grades tf dot lock, open square brackets, leave some space here. Okay, what is the first condition? Is that the grades tf of grade, right, is less than 0. Okay, let's surround this condition with parentheses, right? Or, okay, or when within the pandas library is written as the pipe symbol, whereas in Python is written as the OR keyword, OR. In this case, we represent OR using the pipe, and the AND using the ampersand symbol. Okay, so if it's less than 0, let's copy this condition, or if it is greater than 100, right? All right, let's execute the statement. Student, subject, and a grade. Of course, there isn't any. It's supposed to be greater than 100. So the grade of Elizabeth at the art subject is 150. Now, from looking at this value, it seems that the trailing 0 has been added by mistake, right? So it would be wiser to simply correct the grade to 85 rather than deleting the whole row, because this extra row can somehow be helpful in any subsequent analyses we are going to do. So let's keep it by correcting the grade. Again, we are going to use the lock method to isolate that particular grade and correct it. The same way, of course, we did with correcting the subject art for student David. Okay, how are we going to do that? We start by referencing the data frame dot lock square brackets, right? What is the index number or the row number? 5. What is the column? It's grade, right? Okay, now we've got a reference to our data point. This corrected to 85. Okay, execute. All right, let's test the condition again just to make sure that there are no other values satisfying this criteria. That is less than 0 or greater than 100. As we can see, the data frame here is empty, which means that this grid has been corrected. If we retrieved it, we can see that now it's 85 rather than 850. Okay, please get comfortable using the lock method. Okay, by either providing a condition to filter the results or by providing an index or row number and column name. Okay, print out the student names without replication. Now, when there is a series method called unique, right? So, for example, you can say students is equal to grades df. We are interested in the student column, right? Student. Let's apply the unique method. All right, just print out the student. So here we go. We've obtained an array of all unique students in the dataset. James, Susan, Laura, all the way to Michael. All right, let's print out the student subjects without replication. Here we go. We just simply change this to subject and change the variable to subjects as well. Here we go. We have biology, math, and art. Now, there is a special function called len, or it's a built-in function that basically counts the number of elements in a data structure, like an array or dictionary or a list, right? So if we apply this function, we'll get the value 3. Same thing for len of students, we will get the value 10. Okay, so definitely add this function to your tool build. Next, group the grades by subject and get the lowest, highest, and average grades. Okay, so here we are going to use a method called a group by that is used to group the data points by a certain column and then apply an aggregate function like the minimum or the maximum or the mean or whatever, right? So let's create a variable. Let's name it min grades by subject. Okay. Now we are going to reference the DataFrame dot group by, right? We want to group by the subject, right? Subject. Okay. And then apply the min function to the result. So let's execute this. Let's print out the variable as we can see. For art, biology, and math, the minimum value and the art subject is 85, for biology is 75, and for math is 63. Okay, now since this is a data frame, then we could simply specify or isolate specific series or column from this table, right? By saying we're interested in grade, like this. Here we go. Obtain a series with the minimum for each subject. Now, if the group by function didn't make sense, what's actually happening is this. Let's take this example. So let's assume that we had these categories, right? A with a number like 2. A again, another observation with the value 3. And then A with the value 10, right? And then B, and then C. Okay. For B we have 23 and 43. For C we have simply 0, right? So when we group by this column, the first column here, right, that contains the categories like A, B, and C, and then apply them into the grade, what will happen is that it will take each category, like A first, go through the grades or the numbers here and take the minimum, apply the minimum to them. In this case, 2 will be matched with A because since it's the minimum. With B, it's going to be 23. With C, it's going to be 0. So that's basically what a grouping by means. Okay, we are aggregating or compressing the results using a certain aggregate function like the min or max or mean. Taking the max will change the results to 3 for, 10 for A, 43 for B, and C will remain 0 since it's the only observation. What if we applied the mean, right? In this case, these 3 values will be summed up and then divided by their numbers. So 2 plus 3 is 5, plus 10 is 15, by 3 we have 5. So for this value it will be 5, for B it will be another value for the mean, and for C it will be 0. Okay, so that's basically how the group by method works. All right, min grades by subject, we took the grade. Okay, now we've got the min. Let's get the max now, right? So let's copy this over here, right? and change the function here, max, right? Min grades by subject, let's change it to max grade by subject, right? And then print out the result. Here we go. Again, we're gonna isolate only the grade from this data frame here, like this. 97 for art, 99 for biology, and 93 for math, right? Let's do the same thing finally with the average or the mean. Okay, let's take this and name it average. Grade by subject, grow by subject, and then apply the mean function. Okay, isolate the grade, and here we get the mean for each subject. Okay. Now, how about we create a simple data frame summarizing the results we've gotten in this cell, and then print out this data frame. Okay, just to see the results in a more presentable way, where someone else can see the results and really understand what's happening. So let's call it subject aggregates, right? And set it equal to pd.dataframe, and we will form this data frame object using a dictionary. Okay, so the first key can be lowest grade, right? And the value for it will be min grade by subject. Min grade by subject. Okay. The second will be highest grade, right? And the value will be max grade by subject. And finally, we have the average grade, and its value will be the average grade by subject. All right. Now, in order to isolate only the series from each data frame, all right, let's apply this grade filtration here, like this. So grade, and grade here. Can delete this, okay, and then our data frame will be ready. So basically, what we have is 3 series with similar indexes but different values. Okay, so now let's print out this data frame to see how our results look like. You see, we had the lowest grade series, we had the highest grade series, and we had the average grade series. And all of these 3 series had the same index, right? We had art, biology, math for the min, art, biology, math for the highest grade, and art, biology, math for the average grade. So what we simply did is that we created a data frame where the keys represent the columns and the series represent the data points or the rows. All right. Okay, now let's move on. Group the grades by student and get the lowest grade, highest grade, and the GPA or the average. It's the same thing, right? So what we can do simply is just to take the same code here, paste it over here, right? And the only things we need to change is saying here by student, right? Group by student, min, and then we will get the grade, right? Let's copy this here, min, max, and then average. right? Okay, next step is to form our data frame student aggregates now, right? The lowest grade will be min grade by student. The highest grade will be max grade by student. Seems to be an issue. And the average grade by student for the average grade. Let's now print out our data frame. As we can see, we have here all of our students, right, with the lowest grade across all of the subjects. So Daniel took the art, biology, and math subjects, and the lowest, for example, is 75 across these subjects. Same thing for David, same thing for Elizabeth. As for the highest, 75 was also the highest, and the average was 75. Now, it seems that these results do not make sense, right? So there must be a mistake somewhere in our code. So let's take a look. Group by the student, and then I apply them in. As you can see, we didn't change the function here, right? So it's supposed to be max. So, this is mean. Let's apply now, and now the results make much more sense. And it's fine. It's fine. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to get errors, right? This way you learn how to isolate your errors or mistakes and troubleshoot them. Okay, now we've got our data frame ready. Please make sure that you understand the process of forming data frames using series as well. So you can consider that as a fourth way to create data frames. The first one was using a dictionary, right? A dictionary of lists. The second is using lists of lists. The third was reading an external file, and now we are using uh, series to do the trick. Okay. Now create a chart using the subject aggregate data frame and set the chart kind to bar. Now we are not going to talk about charting or graphing in depth in this tutorial because we're going to talk about it later. But for now, let's just take a look at the plot function and how we can apply it to a data frame in order to form a bar chart. So it was for the subject aggregates, right? Then we call a method called the plot. Okay, now we have an argument called kind that we can change to bar, right? And we are done. As we can see here, we have a bar chart. For example, for the art subject, the lowest grade were slightly above 80. The orange bar represents the highest grade, it's about 90 or 95, something like that, right? Same thing for biology, same thing for math. Again, we're not going to talk extensively about charting now. Okay, now next, study the grade correlation between each pair of subjects. Okay, we want to see how, for example, the art grades are correlated to, for example, the math grades. Do they tend to increase together, or does one tend to increase as the other decrease, right? So first thing, let's isolate each or the grades from each subject. All right, so let's start with the math grades. Math grades is equal to the name of the data frame, grades df, right? And then we can say grades df of subject, right? Subject, okay, is equal to math, for example. Okay, let's print out this initially and see the result. Okay, here are the math grades. And now this, in case you have noticed, we didn't use the look method to get this data frame, right? But we can. So we can say dot look, and we will get the same exact result, right? So it's possible to either use the look method or not use it by following this different format, right? We just simply specify the name of the data frame, and between brackets we apply a condition in order to filter out the data frame. Okay, if you want to stick to the lock method, since the one we have learned in this demonstration, then feel free to do so. Okay, now we are only interested in the grade column from this data frame. So because we don't need the subject and we don't need the student, we just need the grades to study the correlation, right? So we simply follow this with the column grade. There we go. We have a series of the math grades or the math grades in our data frame. Again, you can take this and apply it here. It's completely fine. All right. Okay, let's revert back to the old form. I get them in math grades, biology grades are equal to the same statement here, but we change this to biology. Okay, same thing for art, right? Art grades. Right. Same part. Place art here. Just print out the art just to see the result we get, and alright, it checks out. Okay, now let's get our correlation values. Keeping in mind that there is a series method called CORR or correlation that basically calculates the correlation between one series and the other. Okay, so for example, we can say math and bio, COR, right? And it's equal to the math grades dot cor, right? Biology grades. We get a non-value. Okay, let's see why. Correlation, math grade, subject math, then biology, right to grade. Okay. All right, so I paused the video in order to figure out what the issue was, and it simply was that all of the series for which we want to study the correlation must have the same index numbers. Okay, so in that case, since we isolated different grades from the data frame, the rows tended to have different index numbers. Okay, so what I simply did was to use the method reset index on each series in order to reset the index. And after applying this method to all these three series, the index finally matched across all of them. So now we can continue our work. For math and biocorrelation, we simply take the math grade series and apply the correlation method, and we apply or we simply pass the biology grade series as an argument for it. Okay, This is for math and bio. Let's do for math and art. Math and art, right? Same thing here. Oh, it's a new keyboard. Okay, math and art. Finally, we'll get biology and art, right? Biology and art correlation, which is equal to the biology grades, right, correlated with art grades. Okay, now let's print out all of the correlation values here, this, and this. Okay, now let's take a look at these correlation values. So between math grades and biology grades, the correlation is negative, meaning that as one increases, the other tend to decrease in value. Okay, which simply means as the math grade increases, the biology grade tend to decrease, in other words. Okay, the correlation value is 0.09, which means that the correlation is very weak. Okay, and it can be relied upon in order to take any decisions. Okay, next, between biology and art, the correlation is positive, right? And it's equal to about 0.04. So it's a positive correlation, meaning that as the math grade increases, the art grade also increases. But again, this is a weak correlation. It's 4%, right? Which means that we can't rely on this value. Okay. Finally, between biology and arts, the correlation was about negative 0.63, right? Which means that there seems to be a strong negative correlation between the biology grade and art grade of the students. So as the biology grade increases, the art grade tends to decrease since it's a negative correlation. Okay, and 63%, negative 63% is not a bad correlation. It suggests that there is a fair correlation between these two variables. Okay, so that was it for the DataFrame demonstration. It's important still to always rely on the official documentation of DataFrames in order to see the different components and sections of any method within the DataFrame class, right? So shape is an attribute. Maybe you can say apply, for example. As you can see, description of the apply method for the series. Sorry, this is the series section. If we go up, all right, let's go back. API reference, DataFrame, and here we go. Right, this is the list of all DataFrame methods. Apply is a method that is similar in both DataFrames and series, right? So we have the description, the parameter list, and the returns part, along with some examples on how we can use these methods, right? So I hope you found this tutorial informative. Make sure to leave us a comment, make sure to subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next tutorial. Thank you for watching.